Don't wait until the emergency is happening to prepare for it. Don't wait until you have to engage with people to think about effective means of engaging. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Stay right so you don't have to get right. Passionate. Let me tell you something. So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for Passion No Last Necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionate newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, Passion No Last Necessary, your Get You Right Guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I've observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I will never rob you of your right to feel how you feel, the same way I will not sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so you can operate as your highest and best self. If you're new here, affirmations are our first order of business so we can intentionally raise the vibration and start on one accord. So let's get on the same frequency. If you are ready, go ahead, take a deep breath. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to take this time to state your own affirmations. I am aware of myself. I treat people the way I want to be treated. I speak to people the way I want to be spoken to. I speak well. I speak clearly. I give good, relevant information. I listen to comprehend. I am patient. I am grateful for the patience that is afforded to me. I am grateful for grace. I am grateful just because. I am well. It is well. All is well. Well is all. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Passionate, you want to know something I struggled with and sometimes I still have to talk myself through and past? When I started hosting this pod solo, I was concerned about whether I would have enough subject matter to present and review without becoming redundant. And I wrestled with it really because while we can find things to talk about every day, a lot of the root causes are the same. Nonetheless, while redundancy isn't the intention, repetition is how we learn. So last week, I told you we would talk more about behaving poorly, but while and expecting good or favorable response to said behavior. And we said we would talk about it through and from a different lens. So today, we're going to piggyback on last week. So if you haven't watched that episode, now is a great time to click this link so that you can get where the rest of us are. But this also ties in with the subject that we've discussed previously. Now, I don't remember if we discussed hearing versus listening in this pod or the previous pod. And in searching to confirm, I realized that we've talked about the important differences between hearing and listening in depth in several episodes. Either last year or the year before that, I did a remix reel on Instagram where Montel Jordan was talking about the difference between hearing and listening. Now, he definitely got it backward, more or less saying that hearing is the intentional practice and listening is inactive. But his message was strong, so I shared it. Point is, listening is a skill. It is intentional. It allows you to not only have sound bounce off your tympanum, which is hearing, but to discern, decipher, and decode what the speaker is saying. We've talked about how critical it is to have good listening skills in relationships. That includes relationships of all natures. It is vital to have good listening skills in the workplace. It is vital to have good listening skills when the youth around you are communicating with you, because a lot of what they're saying is in what they're not saying. More people than you realize are expecting you to read between the lines, which means you can't just hear the words they used, but you have to listen for deeper meaning. Too many of us are not even listening to what's coming out of our own mouths. We just let words tumble out in whatever order and expect the other person to be able to correctly interpret our gobbledygook, which isn't really fair to the listener, And if they're a good listener, more than it being unfair, it can be burdensome and irritating to where they don't want to talk to you much or at all. And as much as people expect for others to catch their drift and get the gist of what they're saying, these same people don't like being corrected when speaking. They get annoyed. And that's too bad, because either make sense or make yourself scarce. Feel how you feel, but if the conversation isn't comprehensible to both of us aren't benefiting. Time is too valuable an asset to be wasting it hearing people ramble, pretending they make sense, and answering them according to this make pretend, all in an effort to stroke their egos and make them feel like they're good communicators. So no. And as I've done on numerous occasions and will continue to do, I encourage you to hone your listening skills. This time, it's to save your life. But Passion, how does that tie into last week's episode? Some of you know that I work as an emergency services dispatcher. When you work in that capacity, the three most important jobs you have are listening to the information that's being presented to you, asking the questions you need answered, and disseminating accurate information to the person responding to get the person the assistance they need. Now, someone is going to guffaw because, duh, and obviously. And you would think that giving good information would be basic. It is not. Further, good is subjective, so I've come to realize that useless drivel is many people's idea of solid, useful data. Again, it is not. One of the things you're trained in is not matching the energy of the caller. If a person calls you frantic, you have to maintain control of the conversation, so you can't get hype and start panicking because they are. And it makes sense when someone is in a frightening situation that they are all panicked and all over the place. But here's what. A lot of you live in a constant, frantic, frenetic state. That's why you're so easily triggered. That's why you're so reactive. That's why everything is an issue that's not actually an issue. And this is not the episode where we're going to talk about the foods that you're eating or the music that you're listening to contributing to that. We've touched on it before, and we'll get into it more deeply in a future episode. But because you are always on or at the edge and needing someone to coach and coax you in off the ledge, every reaction is deeply emotional. And while you're hearing someone saying words to you, you are often not listening to what they are saying. Every question is not interchangeable, and neither is every answer. So if a specific question is posed to you, you need to answer that question. Answering something in the ballpark of that question is not going to get you the results you're looking for. Answering the question saying, just send someone, is not going to get anyone there any faster. This is not just about protocol, although protocol plays a significant role in this. This is about equipping the responding personnel adequately to appropriately respond to the situation. Example, 2 summers ago, I made a PSA stating that if you're uncomfortable telling someone how much you weigh, it's probably time to do something about your weight. Why? Because emergency services personnel coming for a lift job need to know exactly what will be required to lift you. When you stuck on a toilet for a few hours and you weigh 350 or 400 pounds, that's not the time to call and say, just send somebody. Because when they send somebody or somebodies that together weigh 300 pounds, you know what's going to happen? You're going to still be stuck on the toilet waiting for more help to come. And worse, when they radio for that additional help, they're going to give your actual weight or the approximation they've made from looking at you, and you're only going to be further embarrassed. The question posed by the person you called, how much do you weigh? The answer needs to be X amount of pounds. Also, answer the questions in order. You know why? Depending on their system, the software, they have to input that information in that order. And even if you work in this field and you work with similar software, their system might not be just like the one you're accustomed to. So don't assume that either. Everyone is using different technology. Another example. When you call 911 in New York City, the calls are answered. New York City 911, do you need police, fire, or medical? The question asked was, which agency do you need help from? Not your address, not your condition. The call has to be routed on multiple levels. If you need fire, they're going to ask you different questions. And if you say you need medical or the police, you have to listen to hear the question being asked of you. And even if you think that you know what's coming next, let them ask you. You know why? 1, it's a great measure for whether they're asking the proper questions should their supervisor need to review the call. 2, if they're asking you the question, it's a sound assumption that they're ready to intake and input that information. The more specific the questioning, the better they'll be able to help you. If you're down in the house like you fell, telling someone you're on the floor isn't giving them much to go on. If the question is, what room are you in? The answer is not, I need help. Also, if you aren't a fan of people traipsing through your home or your personal space, if you give them a precise location, they can come straight there. If they have to look for you peeking in every room, that's exactly what they're going to do. This is also important. If you're one of those people who wants to maintain appearances by hiding the truth, okay? If your home appears clean because you've turned one of your bedrooms into a city dump, there's no real reason for them to look for you behind a door you expressly indicated you're not behind. But if you are a hoarder in general, if you have so much stuff in your house that you have to turn sideways to get down a hall, if you have fossilized animals in your home because they've been dead that long, that's also something you want to find a way to indicate to whomever you're calling for help. These things are precious to you, not to the life-saving team. They're not there to save your possessions. They're there to save your life. Do not think for a second that they won't knock over, break, and or step on everything in your house if that's the fastest way to get to you. And they're doing all that, traipsing and trampling in their dirty shoes that they've worn everywhere. Keep that in mind also. Circling back to answering in order and waiting for them to ask the next question. Stop storytelling when you get on a line. First of all, listen. It's probably not how you should start any call with a professional entity. No one is interested in your street cred or your loyalty to speaking in any vernacular. Second, you thinking that the other person should be able to ascertain your needs based on the information you gave comes in at like a far 10th if they told you what they needed to know. Listen to how this sounds and ask yourself if this makes sense. New York City 911, do you need police, fire, or medical? Yeah, so I came home from work about 15 minutes ago, and when I came out of the elevator, I smelled gas in the wall, and I knocked on a few doors, and everyone said it's not coming from their house, and it's not coming from mine, so maybe you should just send somebody to check it out. And then when they repeat the question, you take that as an indicator that you should repeat this story, but more rudely. You're not listening. Tell them who you need, and if you're uncertain, say, I'm not quite sure, and let them ask you what's going on. If your situation is internal and you're speaking to parties that you believe should know the information they're asking, answer the questions anyway. Y'all be so wrapped up in your feelings and your version of events, you leave out key information. Can you send somebody over here for A, B, and C because this is a problem, because this was never like this before, and I shouldn't have to be subjected to this, and this wouldn't happen if that. And while you're ranting and getting more incensed because the person on the other end of the phone is not getting hype right along with you, you've yet to say, where is here? But you're ready to get loud talking about, are you sending someone? Actually, no. Because you have yet to tell them exactly where this person should be sent. This is what we were talking about last week. Look at how you're acting towards someone you need to help you. You're getting belligerent with them, and they're your first step toward a resolution. Part of the problem is that a lot of people feel unheard to begin with. So when someone comes on the line, they want to vent. We talked about that 2 seasons ago and last week as well. They're part of that group that's fighting to be seen. At the point you need to enlist assistance, that is not a moment you should seize for venting. The person responding to your call has a very express responsibility. It is not to be your sounding board or to be your substitute for abuse, because you can't let it out, get it out, or direct it to the real object of your frustration. They got whole facilities built for you to let out that frustration. And there are trained professionals who are also equipped to counsel you. The call taker is paid to take your call, not your abuse. Next, don't assume the operator on the line knows your neighborhood. Also, don't assume they don't. While you're annoyed at the questions, the assumed lack of service, the misallocation of the money you single-handedly spend to pay the entire workforce of that department, because you know how y'all love to tell somebody how you pay their salary, but you barely pay your bills on time. Right. So you could be talking to your next door neighbor, or you could be talking to someone who just works in the area but doesn't live there. None of that is more important than you giving the requested information. And this tidbit is especially important because a lot of you don't know your own neighborhoods. You know how to tell someone that you lived there for 30 years, but you don't know what the cross streets are. I actually heard someone tell an operator there were no cross streets. That was wild to me. And they sounded so incredulous, like the operator was daft for even asking. They said there are no cross streets. It's between X and Y. The fact that they got that far in life without knowing that the cross streets are the streets that the location is between is very far beyond me. But these are the people that talk to other people like they're stupid because they don't understand commonly used expressions. Same kind of energy for all of you who stroll through life refusing to learn street names. You travel this route every day, but that doesn't mean the person responding to your emergency does. The same way the call taker may or may not be familiar with the area is the same way the responder may not be familiar with the area. And that's the same way you might not be as familiar with the area as you think you are. I remember having an argument with someone years ago. And this was about not knowing street names and attempting to give directions using landmarks. Now, the landmark they were using was KFC. And they just knew they were going to win that argument by saying, well, if they need to get to me, they should make a left at KFC. Only there's another KFC a mile away on the same street. And so tell me again where I should make the left. Even if it's not two of the same thing within a mile of each other, what happens if the landmark you're so dependent on gets torn down? If the landmark isn't there, how are they supposed to get there? And while it is inconvenient and irritating when it's a friend or a family member just trying to get where you're sending them, it's dangerous when it's life-saving personnel. I can't tell you how many calls come in, and when 911 asks for street names, people are giving visual cues. Y'all gotta think smart. A lot of people spending a lot of brain power, but this thinking ain't so bright. What's the address, sir? Oh, it's down the street from the school over there. You can't miss it. Guess what, friend? You can. You can miss it if you're trying to pay attention to the road, other drivers, look at what's written down, and look for a building. Most of you have used a GPS at some point in your life. GPS systems ask for addresses. They do not ask for your terrible descriptions of, it's right there. You can't miss it. If you're coming from this way, you'll see it. Now, Passioners, this one could and probably should be an episode unto itself, but we're going to give a summarized version of it here and now. A lot of folks are in love with their own voice. They love to hear it. They love for others to hear it. And that's fine, but y'all got to chill. Most people are unaware of how many times they repeat themselves. Yeah, I'm calling about A, B, and C. I woke up because I heard a noise and I was overcome with fear. I turned on the light and I crept around the corner with my bat, my little flashlight that I keep next to my bed in case of emergencies because, sometimes you can't get to the light in time, So I heard this noise and it scared me so bad and I crept around the corner to see what it was. And then X happened and Y rang my bell and then Z took place. And like I said, I was so scared and I had my bat and my flashlight. Hello? Are you there? Two things, beloved. First, digital connections are often trash. So you're talking and can't even hear the person trying to get a word in edgewise to tell you they don't need or desire to hear this story time. Second, when they aren't saying anything and just allowing you to drone on unnecessarily, you're getting annoyed with them for not saying anything, but you're so engrossed in your story that contains none of the information they need. When were they supposed to speak? This is why we're doing this episode. You need to take a breath and relax. Saying the same thing repeatedly doesn't make the story more interesting or more impactful. Sensationalizing is not a guarantee that you're going to get an elevated response. And truthfully, you don't want anyone's whole police force to show up in response to your call that your home is about to wash away and take the neighbors with it, only to find out that it's a puddle that you could have mopped up or staved off with some towels. Believe it or not, false calls do carry consequences. I know some of y'all are wondering why they don't carry consequences for the miserable Karens that love to call 911 because black people are in the world existing without their express permission. But there are indeed consequences for them as well. The point is, stop with the story time. Stop repeating yourself. If you don't know the answer to the question, say that. Don't fill in the blanks with your imaginings and repetition. Don't confabulate and stop trying to overtalk or outtalk the person you're on the phone with. Like it or not, this has to be a dialogue, not a monologue or a soliloquy. I keep stressing the importance of pertinent information. What qualifies as pertinent? Clothing descriptions, colors, designs, textures. Example, he was wearing dark blue jeans, a green corduroy shirt, a red knit beanie, and he had on no shoes and one sock. Build, fat, skinny, tall, short, light, dark. facial hair, beard, mustache, facial hardware and markings, glasses, piercings, tattoos, birthmarks, scars. What direction were they going in? Do you know their name? Were they alone or were they with someone else? Do you have a description of the other individual? If the person is ill, what are you witnessing? Are they convulsing? Are they sweating? Are they vomiting? Are they awake and breathing? Can you ask them anything? If you don't want to ask them anything, okay. But we don't need a dissertation on how crazy people are and how dangerous it is to approach someone you don't know. We know. And that's not what we asked you because we didn't need a refresher on that. Another thing. The information we need you to speak clearly, that's the information you want to breeze through. But that non-essential, useless information you're adding for excitement, that's what you want to say clearly and concisely. You're hustling backwards, friend. The relevant information being well delivered will expedite the info being entered, expedite the correct parties or entities being dispatched, and expedite their arrival. So when someone asks you your address, you say 123 Macamora, and they ask you your number, you say 6753. All fast like that. You're doing it to yourself, friend. You're going to be asked again. And responding to the call taker sarcastically because you're annoyed because you have to repeat yourself. Check this out. You have to repeat yourself because you didn't come across clearly the first time. Whether that's due to the connection or your speech, it doesn't matter. What matters is you need help or want help, so you have to do your part to get it. Last week, we talked about behaving poorly and expecting a good result or positive response from that. Do you see how rehearsing that bad behavior can be to your detriment in a life-saving situation? Yeah, but it don't matter because it's your job to send somebody to help me. Yup, and seconds matter. And you're wasting valuable time on trying to be in control and get things done your way. That's never how a call for help works. I want you to think about one more thing, and then I think we're done here. If you were the person responding to the scene, would you want to be adequately equipped, or would you just want to run in blind and hope for the best? I went to that job, so that doesn't even apply to me. Cool. It applies to someone you know, though. It may even apply to someone you love dearly, like a parent or a sibling or a child. Do you want someone putting them in the line of danger over laziness, or do you want them to have a fair shot when they walk into a situation? So if you want so much for yours, why aren't you offering that to someone else? You don't want to be spoken to crazy, but you want to talk to people crazy and think they should be okay with that. You don't want to be tossed into a fire with no protective gear, but you want everyone else to show up with no information and walk in blind, but prepared to make everything better. And when they're ill-equipped, courtesy of you, you don't want to take any responsibility for that either. That's not going to work, passionate. You got to talk to people the way you want people to speak to you. With respect, with courtesy, and with some sense. Honor the pause. Take a second to gather your thoughts. Speak clearly. Project. Don't yell. Enunciate. Pronounce your words. Either give the information that's being asked for or give details someone can use. Don't call anywhere talking about these animals banging on my door unless there are actual animals banging on your door, because you'd be mad as hell if the person on the other line then said, if there are animals at your door, you need to call animal control and then disengage the call. Don't call saying this derelict and this bum. If you could assess them enough to know that they're a derelict or a bum, you should also be able to say what kind of clothes they had on. He stinks is not a clothing description, and it's not going to help someone find an individual they're looking for unless they're close enough to smell them. I don't know. Just do your job and send somebody. The job isn't just to send somebody. The job is to find out where they're going, why, who the responder is looking for or should speak to, and when the incident took place. And that when is all important as well, because y'all love to call and speak in the present tense about things that happened odd long ago. If a man was following you home at 5:45 p.m. yesterday evening, why would you wait until 9:30 a.m. today to call? And with no description? Who are you expecting somebody to find? If someone tried to kick your door in at 3 a.m. when you were home, why did you wait until 11:43 a.m. to call now that you're at work? What would you like somebody to do 9 hours later other than know that this happened? Well, in case it happens again. Do you know how many times it could have happened in the 9 hours that you didn't say anything? So now you want to take preventative measures? Keep that in mind the next time you want to tell someone to do their job. You're not their supervisor. And based on the instructions you're given, you're not equipped to be either. Keep all of this in mind when you're enlisting the help of others for anything. Don't wait until the emergency is happening to prepare for it. Don't wait until you have to engage with people to think about effective means of engaging. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Stay right so you don't have to get right. Final thing. The number for emergency services in the United States is 911. That's for police, for the fire department, and emergency medical services, unless you're calling a private agency. Is 911 a direct connect service state to state? No. What does that mean? If your cousin is having an emergency in New Jersey and you're in Nevada, you can't call 911 and be transferred. 911 needs to be contacted in that state. How would you do that? With few exceptions, 911 calls cannot be transferred to other towns, cities, or states. The best option to obtain emergency assistance in a different state, county, or city is to dial the 10-digit phone number for law enforcement in the community where assistance is needed. Those numbers can be found on the local law enforcement agencies' websites. For agencies and organizations who have national call centers, e.g., suicide hotlines, poison control, and wish to contact the appropriate local 911 call center, a list of 10-digit numbers for each of the approximately 6,000 call centers is available. Access to this list is limited for security reasons, and there may be a charge for access to the list as it is maintained at significant expense. If you would like to contact that organization that maintains this database, please contact the staff of the National 911 Program at nhtsa.national911@dot.gov. If you would like more information, feel free to source 911.gov. I'll leave the link in the description box. If you have additional questions or comments for me, drop them in the comment section or send listener letters to greetings@whatonewomandoes.com. If you would like to donate to the pod, donations can be made via Linktree, PayPal, or Podbean. Every little bit helps. It all goes back into the pod. Passion points were not individualized today because everything we discussed was pertinent. So go back and give it another listen if you missed anything, and then listen a third time for retention, okay? That's it, and that's all, Passionates. You Get You Right Guru is signing off. Y'all go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Stop talking to people crazy. Definitely stop talking to people crazy that you need help from. People want to help you, but not so much when you're a monster. Okay? In all things, be passionate. See you later.